No, that's okay, I'll wait, no rush.
All right.
Hi, everyone. Today is April 8th, 2025. We are at our City Hall meeting,
It's the 9th.
Sustainable
Yeah.
Committee
Oh,
meeting,
it's the
6:30.
9th. I'm sorry, it's the 9th.
Okay, sorry.
You're way behind. Don't listen to Eunice.
My teleprompter says that it's 9. It's 9, and you call this meeting to order. Thank you. I always try to work on our agenda a couple of, at least days before we meet with Tony, so, and we discuss things. So this is our approval of minutes from the March 12th meeting.
I motion to approve.
Approve it.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Meeting is approved the way it is, and thank you for people reading it, very carefully, and which sort of things I don't catch, but people do, which is good. And people,
Andrew stays on top of it.
yeah, Andrew, yeah, it was a very detailed thing, and thank you very much for doing it.
You're welcome.
Yes, I always appreciate people who do extra things which they're not supposed to do, and they do it. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes. Do we have any public today to speak? No? So we have speaker Ethan Barnett, City of Clemson Stormwater Manager. So welcome, Ethan.
Thank y'all.
And we are all eager to hear about you, your water management.
I'll try to keep you entertained for a little bit.
Please do.
I
We
could
are
go
all-
for hours on this topic, but I'm gonna try to condense it. I know
It's,
y'all
it's
wanna
your
do it.
passion, huh?
Yeah, it is my passion.
We'll make it
It
passion.
has been for a long, long time. But I do appreciate y'all inviting me to be here and let me speak to you guys tonight. When Tony, I think you asked me to talk probably a few months back. It just didn't quite kind of work out on the schedule. But I'm glad to be able to come speak now. So, like I said, my name's Ethan Barnett. I'm the stormwater manager here in the city of Clemson. I've been here for about 4.5 years. My office is at the wastewater treatment plant over here at Cochran Road, so that side of town. But we obviously cover the whole town. And I'm going to give you as brief as I can, discussion and kind of information on what we do in our stormwater division. Okay, so some just general information to start. This was created back in 2015. We became an MS4 then, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But it was originally part of the engineering department. I came on in January 2021, so I was part of the engineering department at that time. And then in 2023, we reorganized, the whole city did, and we were shifted down to the utilities department because we function like a utility. We're in the utilities code of ordinances. We charge fees just like a utility. The structure's a little different, but we charge and collect fees to run our program based just like that. So we operate very similar to what you would think in a wastewater or water distribution utility. We currently are about 4.5 employees, and I say the half because our foreman is the wastewater and stormwater foreman. He's split between both of those divisions. So that includes myself, our stormwater compliance inspector. His name's Jared. He's a great guy. Kyle is our foreman, and then Morris is our stormwater operator, and Nathan is our stormwater technician. So the 4.5, 5 of us run the whole show when it comes to stormwater in that regard. So, like I said, we became an MS4 in 2015, and that stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. Okay, as we just call it. There's going to be a lot of acronyms tonight, so if I skip one, please just stop me and I'll talk about it. But I think I have most of them kind of defined in here. But basically, what that there means a couple things. One, we run stormwater and wastewater separately. Okay, back in the old days, you'd run them together, and there are still some municipalities in this country and across the world that run them together. There's a lot of reasons why it's not good to do that, one of which is the volume in stormwater is typically significantly higher than what you would get in a wastewater capacity. So if you run them together and they're not sized right, you get overflows. So they're called combined sewer overflows. We don't have that because they're two separate systems. So like a normal wastewater pipe would be about 4 to 6 inches in diameter, just to keep depending on where you are. Our minimum stormwater pipe that we put in is 15 inches, okay? And it goes up from there. So that's why that's one reason. Try to limit the wastewater leaving the sewer system and then getting into the environment, because that causes all different kinds of problems, right? It does happen in our wastewater systems. We have clogs, they overflow, we report them, we clean them up, we report them. Our pump stations sometimes lose power, especially in hurricanes. They can overflow sometimes. We report them, clean them up as best we can. And I help with that a little bit, but that's more on the wastewater side. But it also essentially means is that, hey, you guys, the state comes in and says, hey, you guys have enough population in a small enough area, it's called urbanized area, to say you're gonna be contributing a significant amount of pollution to your neighboring water bodies. Primarily ours is Lake Hartwell on this side of town, and then 18 Mile Creek, which eventually does go to Lake Hartwell. So you guys, we want you to get a program together to help reduce that, right? We're never gonna fully prevent it. It's not really possible to do that, but reduce our loading into these water bodies as best we can. A lot of reasons why that's important. One, it's a regulatory requirement, but two, we're trying to protect the environment and the ecosystem as best we can. But another big reason is Lake Hartwell is our source of drinking water for this area. So Anderson Regional Joint Water System, that's the water treatment plant out in Anderson. They have their intakes, they take it, they clean it, they pump it back to us, and we distribute it to you guys. So it's very important to protect those bodies, especially Lake Hartwell. So essentially what that means is you have to get a plan together of how you're gonna manage that. And so it's basically a big, long permit application of how we run our program. And I'm gonna go through all of our minimum control measures here in this presentation in a little bit. So that's the whole goal. We're trying to reduce our pollutant loading. And that's not just, that's a lot of times that's construction, obviously, but it's, people dumping stuff down the drain, inappropriate uses of fertilizers, inappropriate uses of chemicals, all that. That's what we try to stop. It's not just tailored to one specific target. So a little bit of background on the regulations. Most of this does stem from the Clean Water Act back in 1972. Back then the thought process I was always taught and I've read in books was dilution was the solution. They tried to dilute the pollutants out enough, and that's what ended up catching a lot of rivers on fire in industrial areas. So that's kind of what jump-started a lot of this. And it has since, over time, that developed into the state regulations. So this is the state law. It's the Stormwater Management Sediment Reduction Act. That was passed in 1991. And that's the law. The regulation that is enforced by DES is Regulation 72-300, which is up there. And that kind of is the guiding principle of how you're supposed to manage stormwater and sediment reduction into your waterways. And just a quick note, because it's still kind of new for me, so I may mess up. SEDHEC, so the Department of Health and Environmental Control, split in July. I don't know if y'all know that or not. They're now the Department of Public Health and the Department of Environmental Services. So I'm gonna try to say SEDES, but I may mess up and say DHEC, just so you know, I'm talking about the same thing. And then we have our own code of ordinances. It's our stormwater management ordinance, and it's in chapter 11 of our code. And it details how we, all the powers, how we collect fees, how we manage it. And there's a lot of other policy documents too that we have that ordinance refers to. Our design manual, our enforcement response plan, our TMDL plan, all that kind of stuff. So those are the regulations. And I'm not gonna go too much into those because that can get a little bit tedious and boring, I'll be honest. But basically, so when DES, or DHEC at the time, but DES now said, hey, you guys got enough people in this area, it would be nice if you guys got an MS4 program together. They used to do it for us. There's a lot of pros and cons. I can argue, you could argue it both ways. I like the fact we're an MS4 because it gives us that, in my opinion, I think we know our water bodies and our watersheds better than DES because they're not located here. And so that's my big pro, and that's why I like that we're an MS4. But they were kind of doing this before we became one. But we applied for a permit, and the permit, I have the number if you want to look it up. I can give it to you afterwards. But It is our MS4 application permit, and basically it's a whole plan of how we're gonna manage stormwater to help meet these regulations. And the way we do it is through minimum control measures, and there's 6 of them. We call them MCMs, and they're listed here. And so we're gonna go through each one of them. I'm gonna give you a highlight on what we do and how we accomplish them, and show you some cool little pictures, I guess. I do wanna say the statewide MS4 permit did expire in 2018, and DES has not renewed it. There's a lot of reasons why. They take a lot of their guidance from EPA, and to be blatantly honest with you, every time there's an administration change in the White House, the EPA switches, so they're kind of going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. There is continuing regulation that continuing language that allows this permit to stay active until they issue a new one, even after the expiration date. So that is the permit that we still operate under, even though it's tough to see here, but if you do look it up, it expired in 2018. So hopefully, I know I've talked with them, they're working on it to get a new permit, so we'll have to update a lot of our stuff in our MCMs. When that does get issued, there's a time period that we have to do that, and hopefully I can maybe give you some more updates at that point, but we're not quite there yet. So MCM 1 and 2, these often get lumped together because they're all about public education and outreach and involvement, okay? In fact, the first one is public education outreach and outreach on stormwater impacts. So we accomplish those by doing trainings, providing educational pamphlets and articles, doing talks to citizens in a formal setting like this or in a non-formal setting as well. And then we also have MCM2, which is public involvement and participation. Think of stream cleanups, storm drain marking programs, shoreline cleanups, that kind of stuff, all right? We do a fair amount of this, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, one of the best things our program does is we are a part of the Anderson-Pickens County Stormwater Partners Consortium. And what that is, for those of you who don't know, is it's a conglomerate of MS4s that join together in the local area to help accomplish this, because we all pretty much face the same main pollutants. It's primarily going to be sediment, trash, and some nutrient stuff, because we're all located geographically in the same spot. We face the same problem. So it's City of Clemson, City of Easley, City of Anderson, Anderson County, Pickens County, Town of Norris, Town of Liberty, Clemson University is an MS4, they're in this as well. And we partner all together, and we work with Clemson Extension Service. They have 2 great agents for that region. Steve Shields is the Anderson County agent, and Aniston Porter is the Pickens County agent, and they kind of help coordinate a lot of these events. And so we may not necessarily put on all these events, but we're contributing, we're being involved, we're pushing that out to the public, and a lot of times I end up going to a fair amount of them, not all of them, but a fair amount of them, to try to help with that. So that's how we accomplish this MCM. So a lot of times, I don't know if you come in the main door, you'll see some pamphlets that talk about it. I carry a bunch of them in my truck. I reference this annual report and a bunch of the extension documents whenever I talk to citizens or contractors, because they hit all audiences, and that's what the whole point is to raise awareness and involve the public, because a lot of times people just don't think about it when they think about stormwater and pollution, because it rains, it goes away, it is what it is. Unfortunately, that's what happens a lot. And that's okay, so we try to just educate more people about it. So MCM3, this is our illicit discharge identification and elimination program. This is one of a fun one that I like to do. So an illicit discharge, and it's defined in the Code of Ordinances, it's got a long definition, but essentially anything that isn't stormwater isn't supposed to go down the drain. So that technically means if you've ever dumped a cup of coffee on a parking lot, that's an illicit discharge. Now, am I going to come after you for that? Probably not. I'm hunting people that are using chemicals and pressure washing, contractors that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, people that are applying too much fertilizer and pesticides. That's where I'm going. And then people that are causing sewer overflows. That's where I'm trying to get. Right? Now, I do track people that are dumping chemicals and oils down the drain, which does happen, and we catch them and write them a violation notice and do all of the process and procedure for that. But that's what I'm kind of going after. I'm not going after people that are dumping something in a parking lot like a Dr. Pepper or something. It's just not going to make a difference, just to be honest with you. But we accomplish this by a lot of different ways. We have a public reporting method, so you can call me, or my number is listed on the website, my email's on the website. The My Civic app, I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with that. There's a way to report it through there. If you see something, that's what we want to do. Because we got about 8 square miles or so, and there's 4.5 of us. We can't quite catch everything. Okay. We do dry weather discharge studies. So when time period of 72 hours of dry weather, we walk creeks and look at the pipes that do discharge to them. If they're discharging something when it's been dry, maybe an illicit discharge, maybe not, because there are some permitted discharges that are allowed to be done. So condensation from air conditioning vents, dechlorinated pool is allowed to be discharged, runoff from yards, from irrigation systems, that kind of stuff. Those are allowable discharges under the permit, unless they have excessive fertilizer or pesticides in them, obviously. And then we do wet weather inspections. So when it's raining, a lot of times I don't know, you may have seen me and not even notice. I'll be the guy in the big yellow suit walking around looking at stuff in the rain, or riding around looking at stuff at the rain. And again, our goal is to detect them and eliminate them because they are contributing to problems with our water bodies and our overall environmental health. So it is a violation. The ordinance is 11-190. We do write tickets for this. Typically, it's in the form of a violation notice. Sometimes it can be a criminal ticket, depending on what the severity and what the intent was. A lot of times, I will be honest, a lot of times this happens and people don't even know it. They don't know. They buy a chemical to pressure wash their house. It's sold as environmentally friendly, but if you read the back of the SDS sheet, it says not to be used around aquatic environments because it's toxic to fish. And so I'm not trying to necessarily, get people locked up for honest mistakes, but we do we correct it and clean it up as best we can. This isn't really an illicit discharge, but it kind of goes into this area of the MCM. 18-Mile Creek, which is, think Nettles Park, that big creek, it has a TMDL attached to it. That's a total maximum daily load. That's set by the state. I think that one was set in 2005, if I remember right, maybe 2007. Anyway, and essentially what it says is, hey, this is an impaired water body, and it's impaired for E. coli count. And so part of our permit is we have to reduce our waste loading, so our E. coli loading into that creek by 57%. Okay, so we track it, we sample it, we put into practice a bunch of different BMPs, detention ponds, or we run our pet waste station program, which pick up your pet waste because it's got E. coli, all that kind of stuff. We do a bunch of different things to try to reduce that loading. We have not quite met that yet. And I think I know why, and I'm trying to do a study this year because we just sample for straight E. coli count in the water, so we do grab samples, send it to a lab, and it gives us a number. There's a lot of what I'm going to call background noise that I think are wild animals, hogs, geese, deer that live on this creek, and I think they're just naturally contributing to a lot of the E. coli. So we've got contacted a lab in Maryland actually that can source trace it and tell you where it's coming from. So if I talk with DES, if we can prove that the human is below a certain level, I think that we will have met that requirement, because unless they want us to start getting rid of all the wildlife, which I'm not a fan, I'm not advocating for, it's going to be really hard for us to meet that level. So, but I threw that in there because that kind of fits. But so this picture on the right, that's obviously a sewer overflow. It was caused by grease and wipes, people dumping grease and flushing wipes. Just as an aside, flushable wipes are not flushable wipes. Please do not flush anything down the toilet that is not just paper, because it will hang up and it will cause this right here. And that's what we try to avoid on our wastewater side as well. Our common illicit discharges are FOGs, so that stands for fats, oils, and greases. Trash and pet waste, those are our big three that we try to combat. So the picture on the left, that's a grease trap that's full and needs to be pumped before it causes a problem in the sewer system and causes an overflow. The one on the right is a bucket of grease just sitting outside, and it looks like one had been dumped or knocked over. That's what we try to eliminate, so that's not just washing off into the adjacent creeks and into the lake. So MCM4, this is our construction MCM. It's to generalize it. It's a twofold type of program. It's construction site runoff program and our construction site plan review program. So we have delegated, and I'm gonna start with the plan review, even though it's on the right. We have delegated review from DES. We review all construction plans for stormwater, well, for all the utilities, but for stormwater specifically, we have that authority. I'm the primary reviewer of all these. Our city engineer assists me in the reviews. Our assistant utilities director, he's licensed, he assists me as well. So we review all construction, and they have to have an approved stormwater pollution prevention plan, or a SWIP, to ensure compliance with these regulations and our design manual. We have a stormwater design manual. It's about 190-something pages long if you want to read it. It can get a little bit intense, and we're actually working on updating it. It's a little bit out of date right now, but that's what we use. And so any site has to do this. And so we review it, we send comments back, we follow our checklist and our design manual to make sure they meet our minimum requirements before they even get close to pushing dirt or get a permit, okay? And so during construction, they use BMPs. These are best management practices. So you think sediment basins, silt fence, ditch checks, construction entrances, all that kind of stuff. That's how they manage their sediment on site. So South Carolina is a design standard state, not a performance standard state, and we reciprocate that here. So what that means is you have to meet the 80% trapping efficiency in your design. We don't take samples pre and post during construction. There are some states that do that for sediment counts. Like we don't do that here in this state. It's a design standard state, so you have to meet the minimum design. It's got pros and cons. I ain't gonna lie to you, because it's a design and it will fill up during a storm, and if it's above a design storm, you'll have increased sedimentation leaving the site. But it's kind of a best you can do. And our design storms are the 2-year 24-hour and the 10-year 24-hour storms. That's reciprocate state standards as well. The performance, think about wastewater, how you have wastewater coming in, you take a sample, you treat it, wastewater getting pumped back out. That's how it would be, but for construction. But we don't do that here, yes.
Just out of curiosity, for the last storm, we seemed to get like 3 or 4 inches within 24 hours. Where does that fall into the design?
Let me think. So, I believe that 3.55 over 24 hours, 3.55 inches over 24 hours would be a 2-year. 5.55 over 24 hours would be a 10-year. But it's real tricky because so the duration, that 24 hours, that means first raindrop to last raindrop. Storms don't always follow that duration, right? And so you can have a 10-year 6-hour, 10-year 10-minute, 100-year 1 hour. I mean, there's a whole bunch of hydrographs and curves that talk about this kind of things. And honestly, in my opinion, you can have a design storm, but you can have a really intense pocket that acts more like a 100-year storm, but it ends up when you look at the long duration, it's more like a 5-year or 10-year. So to answer your question, that would be more like a 2-year event if it met that duration. If it was shorter, I'd have to reference I don't know those off the top of my head. I do know those two, because those are the common ones. Well, good question, yes.
And for the construction mitigation plan, they have to meet the design requirements for a 10-year storm, or is it 25, or?
It's 2-year 24-hour and 10-year 24-hour right now.
Okay.
I think I know where you're going. There are some municipalities in this state that are upping it to the 25-year 24-hour. We do make them model all the other storms. So we make them model 2-year, 10-year, 25, 50, and 100.
Gotcha.
But they're not required to meet the standards except for those two and the current ordinance and design.
How are they? I don't understand. Is it a 2-year or a 10-year?
It's both.
Okay.
Both. But typically 10-year ends up being your more driving factor.
Gotcha.
Well, we are, and to get back to the 25, there are a few municipalities in the state that have changed. Mm-hmm. We are looking at changing. It's not been done yet. We gotta get some comments and feedback from different parties, developers, contractors, other municipalities, engineers, before we make that decision or not. But we are discussing it now.
And that's statewide, or you mean Clemson specifically?
That would be Clemson specific. The state has not changed. Now, whether they do that in the next MS4 permit or not, the next general construction permit or not, I don't know. But that would be Clemson specific. So that would be where we would supersede the state standard. So we look at all that, and then in their post-construction, this gets back to your question. You have to do a water quality and a water quantity. So this is after everything's built, right? So this is where you think detention ponds or retention ponds, that kind of stuff. We make you do a quality and quantity component. So you cannot increase the pre-development runoff rate for those 2-year 24-hour and 10-year 24-hour. So you have to hold that back and discharge it at the same rate that it was before. Right, mimics the pre-existing condition. That's the quantity aspect. We also make you model the 100 to see what it would do in a downstream capacity. Make sure it's not going to cause anybody, harm, more so than a 100-year storm would already do. So we do look at that. The quality aspect. So if you disturb more than 0.75 acres, you have to do a quality requirement. Also, typically, if you're a restaurant on 123, we're going to make you do a quality aspect. A lot of those, they use vortex separators. They're big chambers that trap trash and sediment, essentially. So then they have to clean those out. So that helps reduce that loading straight in Lake Harbor, mainly because they have a lot of trash, but they're also right here at Lake Harbor. So that's one of the things. If you're doing a detention pond, the most thing we commonly see is they trap and retain the first inch of runoff. It's known as the first flush. Contains the majority of the pollutants in the runoff. And so they trap and retain that in the pond, and it eventually soaks down into it. Unless it's a wet pond, and it soaks down, it settles out. So that's our planner view. So then once you get through all that, then we go to runoff programs. So if you disturb more than 1 acre in this state and in this city, you have to get a NPDES permit. That's the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. That's a state-issued permit number, okay? You still come to all of us for the review, but once we give you an approval letter saying this will work, the state takes the documents and they issue a permit number, okay? We are required as an MS4 to inspect them monthly, and we do. In reality, we actually inspect them more like every 2 weeks. The 2-week inspection may not go on paper. It may just be a phone call to the contractor or the GC that says, hey, this looks good, but this needs to be fixed. Try to stay more proactive, but our requirement is a monthly papered inspection. So I do some of those. I used to do a lot of them. Our inspector, he started about 6 months ago, he does the majority of them now. We average 250 a year, give or take. Because we have 15 NPDES permitted sites right now in the city of Clemson. I'm hoping 2 will close in short order, and I can get those down, but then more will come, I'm sure. And then we do a thorough inspection. I can provide you, I can give you any of these documents if you want to look at them at some point in time, but we do an inspection report, take pictures, and we compare it to the approved plans and stormwater, the SWIP, to make sure they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. If they're not, they're giving the report that says, hey, fix this. We'll be back in, depends on the violation. A lot of times it's 7 days. If it's severe, it'll be 48 hours or 72 hours. If it's not fixed, then we go to enforcement. And so then we start writing violations, stop work orders, fines, just depends on the situation. That's the way that kind of works. And again, it's to ensure they're also maintaining the BMPs as well. And then we have Class 1 grading permits. So if you think Class 1, think small projects, like if you're regrading your yard, or you're adding an addition to your home, or you're building a small new home that's less than 1 acre. We do inspect those monthly as well. I think we have about 40 of those going on right now. So Jared's doing 55 inspections a month minimum, so we're going to supersede our numbers. So we look at those. Those are reduced SWIPs and plans because they're such a small disturbance. But think about silt fence. That's what you're most likely going to see in the construction entrances in that regard. But there are times that Class 1 permits do require more than that, and that's part of that plan review process. So that was a lot of mouthful, but now I want to show you some cool pictures. So these are this is our biggest violation that we always have is tracking. That's what's on the left. So it's tracking of off-site sediment onto the roadways. There's a lot of reasons why that's a problem. One, it's unsightly, but two, sediment's leaving the site, and three, it does create a traffic problem, or can create a traffic issue. So what they're supposed to have is the picture on the right. That's a construction entrance. There's non-woven geotextile fabric under that surge stone. They have enough surge stone, and then they have, you can't see this picture, that they have a wheel wash station. They wash their wheels off on site, so they keep it all on site. So bad, good. All right. This is inlet protection. Again, bad on the left because it's caved in on itself. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of silt fence inlet protection like the one on the right better. The one on the right you may think is bad, but it's actually not. Now, it needs to be maintenance, but it was right after a storm, so it actually held up particularly well. Because what you can't see in that picture is there's probably this much rock tall by this much wide that comes off that wire mesh, and so it slows the water down, helps the sediment settle out, and has the other the cleaner, it's not completely clean, but cleaner water go into the system. Right? So they just got to get there and get it maintained. So again, bad, worked well, but needs some maintenance. And these are the types of things we inspect. The picture on the left, this is temporary stabilization. This is, I think, a very underused thing that I push contractors for. Because as soon as you can get vegetation growing, your rate of erosion drops significantly. Because those root structures hold the soil in place, and the vegetation also helps limit the impact, erosion, and velocity from rainfall. Picture on the right, that's a sediment basin. Not the end of they're in construction, so it's not uncommon to see it bare like that, but they're missing a few things. They have their forebay, which is the space from the rock to the front of the picture, but they're missing baffles. You're supposed to have these baffles that go through there. They help slow water, that helps us get sediment out of suspension. That's pretty much the name of the game in construction, runoff control and sediment control. So you're trying to slow water down, get the sand and and a good chunk of the silt to settle out. The small clay particles, they can stay in suspension for a long, long time, even if it's sitting still. It's hard to get those to settle. Almost impossible sometimes. But going back to the picture, they do have a skimmer. That's a good thing, but they were missing a few things in this inspection, which they corrected the next week, which is good. That's what we try to do. And they had taken the baffles down to clean the pond. They just didn't notify that on their report. And I do need to back up. The contractor also has to do weekly reports for this, and they send to us that we check. So we're doing like quality control on them, but also enforcement if they're not doing it. So they're required to do it every 7 days, and then after a rainfall of 1 inch or greater. And so they send them to us, and we look at their inspections. And then we will also take it with us, and while we go do ours to see to make sure they're doing what they're doing, what they say they're doing, and the inspector's also not just riding by. So those are some pictures. So MCM5, that's our post-construction stormwater management. So those ponds, a lot of the sediment basins during construction end up changing to detention ponds at the end. That's for that quality or that quantity and sometimes quality aspect. So there's about 75 post-construction BMPs in the city. A lot are city, there's a fair amount that are city-owned, but a majority are privately owned. And that ranges from detention ponds, which are typically dry ponds like this one, retention ponds, which are typically wet ponds. They have a permanent water level elevation. Macro trash separators like what a lot of restaurants have. There's some level spreaders. There's some bioretention cells. There's a bunch of these things, and they're not, there's no one size fits all per se. So we inspect these. We're required to inspect them once a permit term. To be honest with you, we pretty much try to get them every year, because if you don't maintain these, then they don't work. Then you have flooding problems, and that's a big thing we try to prevent, obviously. So this pond was in pretty good shape. It was a drought that summer. This was a few years back, so the vegetation was struggling a little bit, but they did pretty good. That's a pretty good site.
Where is that place?
Where is that place? Oconee Federal Bank on Highway 93. They do pretty good. There are some places that don't do so good. And so when they get inspected and they fail their inspection, they get a certified letter from me saying you have a certain time period to get a plan together to me to approve and then get it fixed. The time period depends on the problem, right? The pond on the left, and you can barely see it, but there's a pink flag, and just behind the pink flag, that's the outlet control structure. That's what controls how the rate at which the water leaves. So this one is not uncommon. People just, it's out of sight, out of mind. It grows trees which in them, which is what we don't want. I love trees, but not in ponds, preferably, because it can mess with the runoff and the way it works. So they get a notice, they have to get it cleaned out in a certain time period, and then I'll re-inspect it and pass it, or if it still needs maintenance, then they fix it until then. If they don't, then they start getting fines. Pretty simple. The one on the right, that's the bottom of the outlet control structure. That's a very old type of system. We don't approve those anymore. But it's hard to see. But there's a couple of problems. One, the bottom of the riser is rotted out completely, so it's not actually working. But more importantly, I don't think they put anti-seep collars in, so the water's actually following the pipe and causing erosion of the dam. So they've been notified. They're working on that. We found that one this year, and so it will hopefully be getting fixed.
Where's that one at?
Which one? The one on the right?
Yes, sir.
You think of it?
It's all right, it's
My
Friday.
wife lived there in college, and I can't think of it.
Don't tell on.
Up here, behind the barbecue pit.
Oh, Tillman,
Nope,
Crawford.
Crawford Falls, thank you.
Only know that because I read water meters for a long time.
No, and I maybe ask about this retention pond around Bojangles on 93.
Yes,
That looks like it's got trees all completely filling it up.
the one behind the Bojangles or
Well,
the one?
I mean, doesn't it wrap around? I can't tell.
There's two ponds there.
Ah, okay. Well, maybe it's the one on 93 then that looks like it's,
No, well, Bojangles passed, Bilo failed
Right.
because it looked like a forest, but they have since cleaned it out. I don't know if you've been by there in the last week or
well,
two.
it's just along the road, it's been cleaned out. Like, I can't tell how far it goes back.
I'm not quite sure exactly which one you're talking about, but you can show me.
Okay.
You can show me and we'll take a
The
look. at it.
Bilo one was just cleaned out a couple weeks ago.
They just cleared it
Ah,
after years of.
okay, maybe I haven't walked by since then.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's still got some work they gotta do. It's,
right along 93?
that one's a little bit further back.
You have to pull into the Bilo parking lot.
Oh, okay.
We'll get together after this. And then, so our last MCM, this is pollution prevention and good housekeeping for municipal operations. Essentially, this is making sure we follow our own rules, because a lot of times following our own rules can be difficult occasionally. So we do a lot of different things to meet this. We do catch basin inspections. We have, and I wrote this down because there was no way I was gonna remember it. 1,327 catch basins that we own and maintain in the city limits. There's probably about 3,600. The difference is some are privately owned, so we don't necessarily take over developments. Like Crawford Falls is a good example. They own their own system. We don't do maintenance on their system. And then DOT owns the majority of these roads, or the big thoroughfares, and they own the drainage as well. So those encompass those. So we inspect those. We are required to inspect them once every 3 years. We try to get them every year. We do inspections of our municipal facilities, so police station, fire station, our industrial facilities, which are Cat Bus, Public Works, and the wastewater treatment plant. They have their own industrial stormwater permit. They have increased rules and regulations they have to meet because they're handling potentially very harmful stuff. So we do those quarterly and send them notices if they don't comply, if they're not good. But 9 times out of 10 they are. And if what we find is minor things, somebody leaves a paint can out that they're not supposed to, or leaves forgets to put oil dry on a leaky cat bus or spill or something, that kind of thing. And then we train municipal employees. So we do trainings a few times a year. We primarily just train those at the industrial facilities, but I think we're going to expand that to a couple of others departments in the coming year. We'll see. So that, I got one more. And so that's all of our requirements for our permit. All right, so then we have our operations and maintenance. We do that too. So we plan and coordinate stormwater infrastructure maintenance and repairs. So our typical maintenance is ditch cleaning and regrading, catch basin cleaning and replacement. and culvert replacements for driveways, roadways, all that kind of stuff. So we take care of, like I said, 1,327 inlets. We take care of, and these are approximate because we don't always know exactly what we have in the ground, because there's some parts of the system that we're flipping through really old sets of plans, and we try to verify, but they're very deep. But it's 18.6 miles of pipe and 11.55 miles of ditches. So that's what we take care of. I think we do a pretty good job. We can always do better, because as you probably saw on Monday, there are some problems. We do also a lot of times end up helping DOT out in big storms because they cover the whole county. So like the Zaquina, I'm sure you guys probably saw that, 24-inch road culvert got clogged up on the inlet side with mulch and debris, which happens a lot, especially in the late winter, early spring, because of leaf fall and all that kind of stuff. And so we finally got it cleared after about 45 minutes to an hour, and got it flowing again and got it back open. So we try to help DOT out a lot, because they do cover the whole county as much as we can. But our primary responsibilities are city-owned roads and city-owned infrastructure, and your guys' house. You got a question?
Couple.
Okay. So that's it. That's all I have. Probably went a little too long. But is there any other questions? I'm sure you may have some.
Lots of questions.
That was very insightful.
Like I said, I go for hours, but I don't want to do that to you.
No, I can see that they have lots of information, and for me it was, I mean, of course, lots of new information. I have a couple of questions. First one came to my mind. So how, I mean, do you guys like service individual on private property if somebody has some issues of water?
No, ma'am. We are responsible
Just
for the city-owned right-of-way and city-owned easements, and city for the drainage of city-owned right-of-way. Okay, so that would be roads, that kind of stuff. If there is a problem that causes significant property damage or loss of life, we can step in and do maintenance, but we're gonna put a lien on the property to recover our funds, because by state law, we cannot use taxpayer dollars on private property. That's a violation of state law. They'll lock me up and throw away a key for doing that. So, which I don't want.
So you guys don't, no inspection or anything like that, you guys? Private properties and...
We inspect the privately owned detention ponds, yeah. Yeah, we inspect to make sure those are functioning, but we don't necessarily inspect their systems, so their catch basins and pipe, not always. But like a good example, CBS had a blocked up great inlet, and I cleared it for them because it was about this deep, and there were some cars that were trying to drive through it and didn't realize how, but it took about 10 minutes. So technically, I'm probably not supposed to do that, but I just went with a rake and got it clear real quick. But I did tell them, we can't do that moving forward. You guys got to keep an eye on your stuff.
So for private property, if somebody still has runoff from a large neighborhood area, still that's their responsibility to figure it out.
Well, it depends where it's coming from. If it's leaving a city road, then yeah, we need to find a way to help mitigate that as best we can. I'll be honest, there's not all, it's tough in our older neighborhoods, because a lot of the older ones weren't built with drainage in mind, and we're combating that a lot. We did a capital project over on Holly Avenue. It's over here, and I think Sunny Acres is the name of the development, because they're years of road overlays, no ditches, that kind of stuff. We were having people with some flooded basements, and it was primarily coming from our right-of-way. So we installed a system curb and gutter. But there's a lot of challenges in that regard, because nowadays the first thing that usually goes in the ground is your stormwater pipe, and then it's sewer and water and then that kind of stuff, because it's bigger. It's the biggest thing usually. So fitting one into a retrofit where you got a gas line, a telecom line, a power line above you, and then a water line and a sewer line, it can be challenging because the space gets very limited. But if it was originating from right away, yes, we would definitely take a look and try to fix that as best we could. But say there's rainfall on like your neighbor's property and it's running and their house is above yours. If it's just normal, now what they can't do is because this happens a lot, they can't take a guttered system, so gutters on the house, put an extension on it and point it at the property line within 20 feet. That's not okay. They'll get a nasty letter from me or a talking to. It's got to run parallel or be more than 20 feet away. But there is an old law, it's called the common enemy rule, that states that water runoff is a common enemy of everybody, so you can do your best to manage it without causing a significant problem for your downstream neighbor. Now, a lot of things that happen, or there's many interpretations of significant impact, and I don't think there's one solid way, because some may perceive something minor as significant, and then there may be severe significant. Typically, if you try to manage it on your own property, our rule is that you cannot concentrate the flow and point it at your neighbor's property within that 20 feet. So you can't dig a ditch or lay a pipe and point it. Now, if you do it to the back is where it usually gets trouble, because you got neighbors behind you. So it's just difficult. But now, new neighborhoods aren't thought of that. So we plan review. Our plan review kind of helps take care of that as best we can. It's still somewhat of an issue. Good question.
So, I have a question about the silly little things that I never thought about. Throwing your coffee on the, ground. Are there quick, did you know that these little things, if you pour it, it doesn't matter if you pour it in the grass or on concrete?
Grass is better.
Grass is better.
Yeah, well, first of all, coffee's really not gonna cause that big a problem. But to answer your question, yeah, the earth is actually a really good filter for stuff like that. So yes, grass is always better. If you're gonna wash your car using chemicals that's probably other than Dawn, because they use Dawn to clean baby ducks, so it's really not quite as bad. We always ask that you do it in the grass. In fact, like our facilities, we have an actual washdown bay that goes back and it goes in the sewer system, so it's treated. But yeah, that kind of stuff. So yes, it would be better. But yes, there are some pamphlets that the Anderson-Pickens County Stormwater Partner, and I can get that link to Tony. And I have some, not with me at the moment, but
Just little things for households. I knew about washing your car, because it's also better to go to a car wash, right? Because it's
so they use a recycling system. So they collect it, clean it, and then reuse it in the system again. So yes, that's always much better.
So actually, connecting to her question, I had when you had this slide that it said public involvement and participation. What do you mean by that? So just explain me so we can.
Yeah. So the consortium puts on events that involve the public to raise stormwater awareness. We actually kind of did one yesterday. It was a storm drain marking. So if you go downtown, if you go to most of the catch basins around here, you'll see those little markers that have the tiger swimming in water. It says tigers only swim in clean water. That's an awareness that tries to prevent people from dumping stuff down the drain. The volunteer from Publix, they contacted us a few months ago about wanting to do a project, so they marked 130 markers down to, or the 130 catch basins downtown. That's by far, that's not all of them. There's a lot, especially in that area. That's our more urban area. But, so those are the kind of events. We've done some stream cleanings in the past. What is it? I just got the email for it. I don't remember exactly which municipality. But no, it's the Anderson Soil and Water Conservation. We kind of they're not a part of the consortium, but we help them out because we're all trying to accomplish the same goal. They're actually putting on it's called Barrels and Beer. They sell rain barrels and beer at, I think this was at Magnetic South. I think it's in May. I didn't honestly look at the dates before I came here, but they give a presentation on stormwater awareness and that kind of stuff, and you make your own rain barrel that you can attach to your gutter system and then capture that water and use to water your garden or wash your car or whatever you want to do. Just don't drink it, please. It's not potable. But yeah, so that's kind of stuff. Lake Hartwell Partners for Clean Water, we're involved with them as well. They do, I think they have done or are doing one this month, a big lake-wide cleanup in multiple places.
They're doing part of it at Abernathy.
Yeah, yep. They're doing part of it at Abernathy, so we kind of help get the word out on that one. They're not a part of the consortium, but anytime stuff like that comes across my desk or whatever, we try to help promote that as much as we can. Which one?
Well, it's kind of related to hers, just like this list of pollutants for cleaning outside the house. Is that in the code, or is it?
It is not in code, but we have an approved chemical list, yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's a policy document that I can get it to Tony and give it to you guys. We also allow, if you want to use something else, you just send me an email and let me look at the SDS sheet and I can say yes or no.
So what should we actually look at when I'm buying a product to clean my car?
So on the, sometimes it's on the back of the label, but a lot of times it's the SDS is safety data sheet, right, Tony?
Yes.
It will go through all of the safety information, whether it's corrosive, whether it's not good to ingest, which 99% of them are, or get on your skin and that kind of stuff. But there's a section in there, I think it's around 13 or 14, that talks about the aquatic and the impacts to the environments. So that's kind of where you want to look.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard when you're buying something that
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
written in
it's-
such a small print that
Well, and I will say, there's a guy, small business owner, pressure washer guy, bought a chemical, thought that his rep told him was environmentally safe. It was sold as environmentally safe.
Yeah.
He killed 400 fish in J.C. Park because it was not supposed to be used for aquatics. So he got in trouble with us and he with DNR for that one. And I felt bad for him because it was an honest mistake, but obviously when it gets to that level, there's not much I can really help you with. But yeah, if you go back and look at those SDS sheets, it talks about that.
definitely it goes into the public involvement and awareness.
Yeah, I always try to let people know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, this committee's, part of its charge is awareness and involvement. And so if there's thoughts about how we might facilitate anything.
Okay. Yeah, I'm always happy to help you guys. I can give you any of the information I have. It's all public record, so I'll get you whatever you want. I'll just send it to you, and you can start sharing it. And if you guys have to go through it and have questions, or think of, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not the best. Public awareness is not always my best strong suit. I think in those MCM lists, I'm not always the best of in the outreach area. But yes, I'm always welcome to feedback. If you guys see something that you think we can do better, or something that we can promote better, or get out to the citizens better, just let me know. We'll come up. We'll find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, like during COVID time, all the time you were, told to use the Clorox wipes and this and that. And, at that time you're freaking out, but then you realize that even that Clorox wipe was, I felt like, I was allergic to it, and every time I used it, I was just coughing, and it was bad for me. Then I realized that obviously. But lots of things, it says that environmentally friendly, but as you're saying, it's not necessarily. They say that it's friendly, environment friendly, but not necessarily, as you said, that there are things which is not good for fish.
Yeah,
So
that gets into.
yeah, so
And
it's kind of
I don't think it's
confusing.
FDA that approves the labels, but there's an agency that approves labels. I mean, it may be FDA for.
If it still exists.
Yeah, if it's, yeah. That, it can get into what's allowable when and I don't have all the information, but I always just recommend you read the SDS sheet and the label carefully. Or if you have questions, just reach out. Yes, ma'am.
On public awareness, this is streamed. The Barrels and Beer event is on May 3rd from 11 to 2 o'clock at Magnetic South Brewery, 516 North Main Street in Anderson. It costs $45, early bird. You get a beer, a rain barrel, and kit, and I have 7 or 8 of those. They usually cost well over $100,
Yeah.
so it's a great price. And they help you put it together, and you get a presentation, $45, the bargain. May 3rd, 11 to 2. Thank you for telling me.
You're welcome.
I just looked it up.
I think it came through today. I was looking through a few.
$45 a bargain.
Yeah, but that is a cheap price for rain barrels. They're usually well
Oh,
over
my.
$100. The Clemson Extension Service usually does a rain barrel sale too, usually in the spring. I don't know if it's over or not. I'd have to look that up.
Can you let us know when that is?
I will let you know, yeah.
Pickup is April 15th.
Pickup is April.
It's April 15th. I'm not sure if they're still taking orders or not.
I can find that out. And moving forward, anything like that, I'll send it to you, Tony, and you can let the community know. And y'all can help us get the word out.
Could you get us copies of that Stormwater Partner publication?
The annual report?
Yeah.
Yes,
maybe drop it off with Tony and bring it to the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Well,
they have
don't,
they have a digital copy.
don't
too.
print it
Oh.
out. We're the sustainability committee.
I'll
No,
send the
and-
link, I'll send the link.
I can't get over it.
You can print it yourself.
I have a question too. With all, like, yeah, with all the cuts to federal programs, EPA, all that, the state is not, like, will these regulations stay in the state and in the city?
Until they issue a new well, we would have to change our regulations ourselves. I don't
But
foresee
we
us
won't relax.
doing
You don't
that.
see
No,
anybody
no, I don't
relax.
see us relaxing our regs.
Even if the states go away.
Yeah, and I don't know, I'll be honest, I'm not qualified enough to speak how that would work. But from the understanding I have is that the permit stays live until they issue a new one. There's continuing language in the back of it. I don't remember the specific section. I've read it several times. It's not the funnest read, but it's interesting sometimes. So I don't think that could happen. But that would be more of a question for an attorney because it would get the courts involved, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I don't foresee
Good
us.
question.
Ours are codified at the local level, and unless city council chooses to change those, because they're the only ones that can, I can make recommendations and proposals, but I don't see those getting relaxed.
One more quick question. You mentioned about the levels of Parkville going up and down.
Yes.
So, and I know some summers we've had some pretty serious drought and level has dropped really low. How does that impact our source of water, clean water?
So, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers owns Lake Hartwell and they manage it. They make power, but they also, they use, I think it's guide curves to draw it down, because they draw it down at certain times when typically we see more rain, to give space, because it provides power, but one of the big reasons it was built was for flood prevention. It actually is a very big flood prevention lake. And in fact, it actually really helped us in Helene because we didn't have the bad flooding, because it was about 6.5 feet down. Now, it filled up in the next 24 hours after it stopped raining. I don't know if you noticed that, but had that been full, we would have had a lot worse problems in this city. I won't say quite as bad as other places, but it would have been worse. So it does help. They have an emergency committee. So Anderson Regional has a whole board. We have a representative, our utilities director, actually my boss, Benjamin McGill. I think he's on the executive committee of that board. Don't quote me on that, but he's involved. And they have emergency action plans. They have intakes at different levels. They have a bottom intake, and I think the last time it got really close was probably like 07, 08 during that bad drought. It can affect it, but they kind of manage that. But typically what you would see is if we got to a situation like that, the 16 members of Anderson Regional, if you have an irrigation system, we're gonna turn your meter off and lock it to conserve water. You also probably would see potentially, and again, I'm not in charge of all this, but you could potentially see increased penalties for over excess use of water, so you'd try to allot a certain amount a day. They've never done that. They do have a plan that I'm aware of. I don't know exactly what it says. I can get you a copy of that as well. But you could see that potentially. But like I said, I don't think that's ever happened in history. But they do have an emergency action plan.
Thank you.
Is there anything that we could recommend to the city that would help you take care of the water that we get and clean it? As far as ordinances, are there any holes or something that you would like to see changed?
You hit the button.
It won't cost you your job.
We
I'll
won't
say
tell them
this.
it came from you.
It's a very delicate balance.
Yes.
All right, because there are, and Greenville County is one of these, and by no means am I promoting that we do this. In Greenville County, in certain watersheds, individual homeowners have to do water quality BMPs on their homes.
Mm-hmm.
it's a slippery slope. It does help, but it also puts a lot of burden on you guys, because you're the owner and the maintenance person of that. So there's a financial cost, a regulatory cost. It also means we gotta inspect those as well. So it's a very delicate balance. There are some things that we are looking at that I think we could do and improve to be a little better. One of which, like I mentioned, we're looking at up in our design storm requirements. We use the NOAA Atlas 14 data, which is the most recent one, until they cut loose to 15, which I think should be hopefully soon. Those are the most recent rainfall data that we use and have engineers use when they design systems. And that's what we use when we design too. But we are looking at that. I don't know what that would look like, because I want to hear from different parties, engineers, contractors, regulatory bodies, you guys. I want to hear, because it affects a lot of people. It's just not a broad brush stroke, because what that would mean is detention ponds, either underground or above ground, they're getting bigger, they're getting deeper. You're losing some land area potentially, some green space potentially, because it's a big hole in the ground, but it's usually green, which is good. So it's kind of a balance. And then I think we're going to look at changing some water quality requirements for some smaller projects that not necessarily just this section here, across the board.
Well, I hope you'll include climate scientists in your group that you're asking, because of course developers and regulators are looking at past data, but we do know that those rainstorms in the future are going to get worse and worse dramatically.
So are the droughts.
Yep.
So,
And so include those climate scientists' opinions along with the developers to balance
Yeah,
that.
I work closely. I'll say this. I got my master's. Well, I got my bachelor's and master's from Clemson, but I worked with a lot of folks there, and so I'm going to get their feedback as well. Get feedback from other municipalities that have, one, done it, and two, that are thinking about it. And we'll have to make a decision because we're seeing some changes. I'm seeing, in my opinion, we're seeing more intense
Yes.
storms, the more of the deluges, because like from Monday, from 9 to 10, we only got about 2.75 to 3 inches total, maybe a little more, depends where you were. But in that 9 o'clock to 10 a.m. range, it rained about 1.75 inches an hour, which is a severe intense deal. And that's why, I don't know if you saw, a lot of DOT catch basins right here were back flowing out because they can't handle that volume in that short, or that intensity in that short amount of time. And ours, a lot of ours couldn't.
Down by Earl Anderson Park, there's maybe a 10-inch diameter black pipe that goes across the creek there. And the creek had risen to within a foot of that pipe with this most recent storm, meaning that if there was any debris that actually came downstream at speed. So what is in that, what gets carried across that black pipe?
My best guess, I'd have to physically go look at it, but my best guess is that's a sewer line, a sewer main. I will say when they are put through creeks, a lot of times they now go under, but it's usually gravity sewer, so it's not pressurized. They are designed with more stronger materials and braced for water flow and impacts like that. Doesn't mean that they still can't fail or get broken, depends on what hits them. But my best guess is that's a sewer line that we own and operate. So we look at those too after storms. Not us so much as the wastewater guys, but we help them out too. Just something to think about.
Anybody else? Any other questions? No?
Any more questions? I can go for a while, but you good?
Send Tony your slides.
I'll send Tony the slides.
Got them, I'll send them to you.
Do you have a list of? I'm basically just going to send you my entire Google Drive folder. Sort through what you need. My contact information is there. I unfortunately gave up my last business card in my ID badge this afternoon, so I don't have any right now.
I wrote it in front of your
But you
name.
can get that, and I can get y'all some cards.
Because, sometimes, I really wonder who is the person I should call. When they're building houses, what was that street behind my neighborhood? Ford Road?
Ford Road.
Yeah, Ford Road, where they're building houses, and while they were building, it was a disaster whenever it rained because the house is on a very much like height on the hill. And all that mud which you showed in one picture, it was worse than that. You'll get flooded, cars, and I was very frustrated to see that somebody should be doing something about these builders. They're not taking care of it. And I had no idea that,
Yeah, so specifically that house, because I know exactly which one you're talking about, that is outside of our jurisdiction. That's in Pickens County. Now, Pickens County is an MS4. They have a person just like me. His name's Kyle. He's a great guy, very smart. He covers the whole county and 2 inspectors. I called him about that. He had several conversations with the builder, from my understanding, because it's the one that was way up on the hill, right?
way up on the hill there.
Yeah, and it was,
I think it's done now.
I could not issue a violation because it's not in our.
But that was something which, if I.
That is something I would have issued a violation on, yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
Or at least posted a stop work order until they fixed it, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks
Good
for
to know.
coming.
Thank you
That
so
was- yeah,
much.
thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was
Yeah,
very interesting.
and definitely, it was like lots of information and very good information and very much learning. As you said, that we do need to look into our more public awareness and public which you talked about, like dumping oil, dumping grease, dumping things like that. For small things like dumping coffee, for us, like that's a good information to make people aware and make people make an effort to understand that. Those are very small things.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing in our deal is a lot of people just don't think about it or don't know.
Yeah.
So trying to make, just think just a little bit about it, just, hey, maybe this is not the best way to do this. I mean, I've done it before. I'm not gonna stand here and tell you I haven't, I promise. I have done some things before I worked here that now looking back, I'm like, yeah, that's not good. So, I'm not casting stones. I've been there too. So, but we just try to raise awareness because that's a precious, precious resource.
Yeah, thank you, yeah. Thanks.
Well, thank y'all for letting me come speak
Thanks
to you.
again.
If you have any other questions, you can send them directly to me or have Tony send them. I'll get that going on that information, and as things come up, I'll let y'all definitely know how I can get your help and input and assistance and get that public awareness out. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's time for us to.
Like a social media or something with a did you know? Just with quick little things. Not a whole long article, but just quick little things so people think about it.
Yeah, I mean, we do think about it, we never dump.
Write them up,
So many
Shelley.
things.
Excellent idea.
Okay.
Clemson Connection might be a good place we have something like that already.
Yeah, he usually does a quarterly for the connection.
Right.
He'll do a.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to get these
Now
all this
with
information.
Bree and the more of a social media presence, she started to do more of those. Did you know?
Okay, because I think like the reports are good, but sometimes people get lost in the week, it's like
Just a
a lot,
quick
we
little-
just need like quick little things, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, thank you everyone, and let's move on to our next agenda item, action item, motion from energy efficiency to recommend that some city meetings become virtual.
We would like to table that again for this month.
We're researching.
Go ahead, and we did discuss,
We would like to table it again for this month, and I will have a
Yes,
report during
that's
my
it.
subcommittee on why.
All right.
all right. Did you discuss them? Should move on. Discussion items, subcommittee reports, wildlife certification and
We met, sadly, with no Chris, very sad. But Tony was there to help us out, and we talked about how we're going, and most of the meeting was actually, oh God, Chris is gone, what are we gonna do now? Because he was doing we were kind of doing the education part, and he was taking care of everything else. So basically, we spent the time learning about the website, figuring out how we go forward, what's been done, what still needs to be done. So it was a lot of learning, but we do feel like we've got our feet on the ground again. And we're going to discuss certifying a few more parks. We're going to keep focusing on individual homes. Tony's looking into getting a bird bath to try and get this one green space certified. And then we're going to spend some time looking at the NWF website to see if we can get materials from them to help set up an information table. We feel like Clemson Downs is a big opportunity, all those homes there. We're going to try and get in touch. Unfortunately, Ann Furr was here, and we all loved her. And did we get any contact information from her?
I called and left her a message. I'm just waiting to hear
Okay,
back from
great.
her.
I have her, she's a friend of mine, I have all her contact.
Okay, well,
I
Tony
have her
apparently got it.
number, and I called and left a message. I'm just
Okay,
waiting to
okay.
hear back, but if,
I have her email.
there you go.
Okay,
Well, that's good.
yeah, if you could send me her email, because I was going to offer to help her anyway.
How many houses do you think Clemson Downs has?
Oh, hundreds. How many,
Yeah,
how many
yeah.
do we have of our 100? People keep asking me that.
We have 98 points.
99
Out of
points.
200.
I think it
But
was
we don't have.
It's up a
51
little
homes.
now.
It was
Huh?
51 homes, I think.
51,
There are
that's
51
around.
homes here.
And we have, so
51
Robert,
homes in Clemson Downs?
Clemson City. And Robert made these copies, so does anybody need one to
Yeah.
give to
Or just
someone?
wanna-
Take as many as you like to pass to your friends and
And
neighbors.
there's some seeds
And
too left
Chris
over.
made packs of native seeds. We don't know what the plants are, but
Mystery native
Oh,
seeds.
that's nice.
you can have them.
So we
Mystery native plants.
That's right.
So we also talked about, contacting the churches in the community.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I've got a list.
if you know, there's 2 churches that have registered,
Yeah,
but if you have a good contact at a church, let us know.
The University
Lutheran?
Baptist Church that I mentioned last time,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
right across from Max. I actually was walking our dogs this afternoon and ran into one of the women was outside. So she told me email their, so I will take care of them. I'll send them an email.
which church?
The University Baptist that's right across from Max on Pendleton Road. So I'll contact her, because I talked to her and she said, send her an email and she would,
If we could get Patrick Square and Clemson Downs,
Yeah,
we'd get out.
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, Patrick Square, well, what I was thinking of in Patrick Square is they have that,
Pond area.
well, no, I was actually thinking they have a big sale there every Friday, or it used to be Fridays, where people come and sell things, produce and stuff. So if we can get a
Produce market, yeah.
table
Farmers
together.
Farmers
Yeah,
market,
Farmers
yeah.
Market, thank you, Senior Mammoth. If we can get a table set up at Patrick Square, the same kind of people that would be interested in certifying their yard are the same people who are gonna be going to the farmer's market.
So true.
So I was hoping if we have a table there, then we can say, oh, hey, here, if you're interested, give me a call, come help you do it. Clemson Downs, I was really focusing on mainly because a lot of those people are gonna have trouble getting, the online process is not simple. So if you're kind of struggling with computers because you're 80 anyway, that could be a big barrier. So if we were able to go with a couple laptops and just help people sign up, I think that would help.
Well, but Ann was talking about that area, the park-like area. That should be worth more than 1 point.
Well, Clemson Downs, the main building, the main building is already certified, right?
It is.
Yeah,
But Ann was talking about between Camelot and Clemson Downs is a park-like area, no buildings in it, that Clemson Downs maintains. And she said that could easily become a certified area.
yeah, but I don't think that would be separate from,
Yes, it is a separate geographical piece. And that's what she was
but
trying.
it's owned by,
Clemson.
it's still owned by Clemson Downs. So once Clemson Downs is certified, can
not
they
a separate-
certify another area of their property? I don't
You
think.
can, it's like if somebody owns adjacent a lot next to their house, they can certify both.
Yeah.
Actually, they're two distinct,
They're-
they're two distinct ownership
Completely
groups
different.
between the assisted living and skilled nursing, that area, and then the homeowners. Those are two distinct,
Yeah, the homeowners, I know that was
and
separate.
Woodland
Okay.
Walk goes with the
And the
homeowners.
homeowners own Woodland Walk, which is next to my neighborhood.
Okay, so
So
Woodland,
Woodland Walk is what Ann was talking about.
okay.
No,
I don't know what the rules are for NWF.
But it's a
and
separate
that
area,
stuff.
and that should be worth several points, because it's pretty big and already has water, already has some
Yeah,
native
water's always
plants.
the big barrier.
It's a river,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, that makes.
so it should be easy to certify, she was saying.
Yeah.
So if you need me to talk with her, get together with her, I can meet you
Yeah.
there and show it to you.
Yeah.
Should be easy to
Well,
do.
what we should do is contact NWF and make sure.
And
That's
there's this group that runs the Woodland Walk, what is her name, the lady in charge?
Nancy Pallison.
Nancy, that would be the person to talk to, meet with Ann and
Nancy.
Nancy and me and John, because we live on the other side.
What was her last name?
Pallison, P-A-L-I-S-O-N.
I have her email too, and phone number. She's Woodland Walk is, yeah.
Shoot, if water's a thing, Earl Anderson Park should get qualified.
Yes,
easily.
right, that'd be easy to do. Yeah, because it's got native
Could be
plants,
the next one.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I think I did most of the parks. Oh, well, I did whatever parks Chris sent me to, so there may be parks that he didn't
There's-
send me to.
there's a
Earl
lot more.
Anderson should be doable, and that's your contact right there.
We should just
John
do,
Hiley.
we should just do all of the city parks that we can.
Okay, I'll just look at the list of city parks and figure out which ones I haven't done,
Okay, we can.
because I did most of them.
Great,
I did like 12.
great. Cindy.
He just didn't send most of them in because he wanted to concentrate on the individual homeowners.
But
But,
they're more bigger in number.
yeah.
There's one park, I don't know I forget the name of this, when you drive the back road, when you go on campus and downtown, and I think, what is the name of this street, I'm just forgetting, I just go there, and it's a
Shank and
small-
Sims Park?
I think so, the small area when you just, the back.
That's the one we're getting the bird back
Yeah, that's
for.
one that has everything but water.
That one's almost,
Does it go by the native patch?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, as long as you've got a
Back
couple
road to
oak
the
trees,
campus.
That
it
only makes sense.
qualifies. And, you know, whether you like it or not, that ivy is great cover.
yeah, that
So-
one should go too with the bird bath, good.
Yeah, yeah.
I drive all
I
the
think
time.
I did
to the
Earl
back
Anderson
road.
Park. I just can't remember all the
The more the
names.
traffic you go,
All right,
you going the campus. So that's the one I'm talking, okay. I always go and then forget the name of that place. All right, that's good.
There's
So-
also like administrative points that are required, and now we can look at it and see that there's things that have been done that haven't been counted yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about the city council? Do you count this whole area? There's so much space in the
Oh, the
back.
green, like the facility,
Mhm.
if it's property, I mean, does it matter?
Could you use this
Municipally-
property?
This
Municipalities.
property in,
Sure, you can do it.
Requirements.
Needs bird bath.
Yep.
Needs bird
put a
bath.
bird bath.
Like I
City Hall
said,
has, City Hall has the creek back here,
Oh,
okay.
down the little ravine. So City Hall probably qualifies.
do we have some native plants out there? Everybody look around when you leave.
There's probably, I can see oak from here.
They have Robert Halfgate's.
I mean, that's
his office, a bird
mass, so
bath.
it's food, so it counts.
We should put a bird bath in our mayor's office. And get at least more than 1 point.
Any of those parks that you've already certified, or you already
We should just go ahead and do them.
inspected, let's just go ahead and do them and
Yeah.
get the points, and
Yeah,
then it becomes an outreach.
Yeah.
And if we get certified, then more power to us, and
So let's
we
do the
get
city
people in.
property, this property, we should try to
Is there
certify
another
this.
level of certification beyond
Plant some
the
seeds
initial one?
here.
That's a great
not that I know of.
I'm just
We get
wondering.
like gold, platinum.
Master certification.
It's almost.
I mean, National Wild Habitat, I mean, their objective is almost to have a
We
team
have one closer to the house.
independent that works to build this up, not just, this is a start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, so that,
And-
we have to do.
and so if there was a way to
keep
move
working on
this
those things that-
out of this committee
Yeah,
into
this
somebody
place
else.
is very yes.
The next thing,
We'll get there.
I want to give Tony time.
Yes, let's go to the next thing. Energy efficiency committee.
So we're still waiting to get our Green Crescent Trail on the city council agenda. We're still waiting to get the report on the energy efficiency from this building, and we're putting off the virtual meetings motion because we're gonna talk to Jeremiah. He didn't want to come to our meeting, so we're gonna go to him and get him to answer questions before we write the motion, but we met. That's my report.
Just look into, I'm not real crazy about the way our meetings have been held in the past when they're virtual. I think they're very hard to use. I'm a big Zoom fan, and that's the best one to do. I have never had any trouble with that, but I've had a lot of trouble with Teams and with what city's been using.
But isn't that what we tried to discuss, that we should, instead of having calling them subcommittees, we can call it, so.
Yeah,
we'll
I'll
not
talk
have-
about that in a
Yeah, so
little
that's why,
bit.
so let's move on to that topic and then
The
we can.
trees.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Let's do the tree
So,
presentation, yes.
for the tree preservation stuff, Elaine and I were able to meet at Nettles Park, and we focused on a much closer city than Charleston. We looked at Greenville's ordinances and we compared and contrasted them, because, you know, it's a lot closer, we're in the upstate together. And also, I think we have similar demographics. So as far as property rights and how people care about them, I think we can be comparable to them. So the key differences, though, is the scope of Clemson is public trees only, whereas Greenville regulates all trees, public and private. Enforcement in Clemson is limited, it's only capped and not structured, which is very different than Greenville because they have strong enforcement and a tiered or like structured mitigation fee whenever someone does break the rules. Private property, again, Clemson is not addressing that, but it's strongly regulated in Greenville. Canopy coverage in Clemson is done 25 to 30% for a development over 5,000 square feet, and in Greenville it's 1 tree per 2,000 square feet. So I think that's comparable, but it's interesting that they did it that way. And I would really like to get someone from Greenville to tell us why they made some of the decisions that they did. The tree inventory, again, in Clemson is only public trees and the ones that we can get done through homeowners who want to become a part of that. We're still working on that, I think.
Still, we will constantly be working on public tree inventory.
Yes.
We're up to 2,180 trees right now.
Oh, wow.
And that's mostly done through volunteers and university students like yourself.
So, but the flyer, the pamphlet, I was wondering if
The pamphlet, I submitted that to Bree. So Bree is working on 3 different blurbs, one for NWF, the certification of the parks, one for the tree. She was just gonna talk to planning and development and make sure we have everything square. And then she's gonna do some social media with that flyer.
But is that pamphlet something that could be printed out and get a QR code for? And
I'll have to hear back from her because it has to be approved by the public information folks. And
Gotcha.
she's the public information folk.
Okay, thank you. Greenville also has mandatory tree inventories for all developments. So if you're going to develop land, you have to go in and take an inventory so that they understand what the land was before the development, much like you do with rainwater pre and post construction. And then they have specific, much like Charleston, definitions of heritage trees, where Charleston called them something else like landmark and landmark trees. But they carry specific fines after the tree reaches a certain size, and Clemson has none of that. So those are the areas that we want to focus on. Where can we make headway and not run into too much political backlash?
Because there are 2 things here, Chris, about Clemson. This is my opinion. That first of all, we cannot compare with Greenville because you can see that their budget for tree inventory, as you said, it's usually done by volunteers, students, and of course that needs a lot of money, and it's a different kind of population there. Clemson has a different kind of population, so when we compare these 2 things, it's sometimes it's hard to compare. But definitely we need regulation. Definitely we do need some kind of the private and of course public tree regulation, because that's why we are here from. That's the reason I started here, because we do need that. And for developers, my main concern, I always feel that the developers who are developing these new neighborhood, new areas, they say that, okay, we are planting you that many trees we cut, and now we are required to plant a few 10 trees in front of their house. It's not going to create the same the feeling which you have a real wooded areas. They are real woods where they have tall trees, and it's kind of it looks like foresty. It's not going to create the same thing. Maybe aesthetically it looks beautiful, pretty, but it's not creating that same kind of habitat which you are looking for animals, birds, or whatever you are looking for. So that kind of thing. So it's all kind of, so we should discuss that. But let's, that was my opinion on this one.
So one of the things Andrew and I talked about, we're trying to get citizens to do inventories of their yards. Do you think that you could talk with planning and codes and see if they would print the 11 by 14 size of the lot from the GIS program for Pickens County? Because I pulled that up for my house, and I think I could use that if it were a little bit bigger, and to go around, it's gonna help me identify where the trees are. And then
Is this from the tax map?
Yes. And it's during the winter right now, so they're kind of bare, but it's fairly current pictures, I think, of the property lines.
Yes, that's one thing we do want to do is create that funnel for landowners who want to get in on that public tree inventory. What does that process look like, and how can we streamline it and integrate that into Clemson's website and
I mean,
have
you're
it
not
not
gonna
be
have 100 people wanting that at the same time, but if you have 1 or 2 a month or whatever, I don't see why that would be a major problem for planning and codes. And then I could take that and go around my yard and identify with a tree identifier and all that stuff, identify exactly what's in my yard.
It'd be more cost effective than paying somebody to do it, if you can have a little help doing it yourself.
Right, I think they're, like, I'm interested in doing it. I'm sure a lot of people who are property owners would be, if they just need that tool to help them do it.
That's a good idea.
I think we have 0 people signed up for that tree protection program.
And that's awareness, lack of awareness.
Well, and how do they get signed up? So I think figuring that out is our goal.
Okay. Well, thank you, Andrew. Now let's move to next one, since we're running out of time. Staff report. Tony.
Real quick, we're going through some interviews right now. We have a couple people down. We did hire a landscape tech position, Will Carter. He's a couple of weeks. He's doing fantastic. We had 3 more interviews for a groundskeeper this week, and we should make a decision by Friday. One of the urban crew's been mulching away. We're getting to where we're having to hop on lawnmowers and take care of regular maintenance. So our mulching is coming to an end, but they have done a tremendous job this year. It's so important, and most of this is mulch from Helene, which was, sadly to say, really good mulch, and should be sustainable for a while. Named Tree City USA for the 12th year. I just got that a couple of weeks ago. So that was a biggie. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the green infrastructure, the South Carolina Forestry Commission grant that we received for technical assistance for developing a green infrastructure plan for the city of Clemson is going forward. And we're on the 3rd cohort, which is set for June. And I would love some representation from this committee. I talked to Cindy about that. These will be 3 virtual meetings, but that input will be very key for developing that strategy for the city of Clemson and how we go forward, developing that plan for our habitat cores, for conservation, and for potential new parks. Those are the 3 things that we're going to be covering. So,
Okay. Are you sending us the information?
yes, absolutely.
Email?
Yep.
Okay, please. That's it?
That's it.
Well, thank you so much for short and sweet information. All right, 3rd item is discuss possibility of changing subcommittees to working session groups.
I talked to Jeremiah about that today. I believe it was my idea to do the subcommittees. He said that if we wanted to disband subcommittees, we voted to enact them. We would just have to put it as an action item for next to disband them, and folks can just get together and work on these things, and then we bring them to the meetings. That way, we're not doing minutes, we're not having to post where the meeting is being held. You can have virtual meetings, blah, blah, blah. So,
Yeah.
let's,
Okay, that's the way to go.
So, yeah.
yes, you
Yeah.
can go
That
to
is
different
totally
groups.
the way to
Yeah.
go.
There's
Back
no,
to your
it's
question.
nothing
Yeah.
official. So
Yeah, we can,
that, the subcommittee, I'm pretty sure it started with me, so blame me for that
I don't
one.
think so.
But hey,
we did not know this thing, we
Yeah.
all decided that, it's
but
not you.
it's very cumbersome.
Yeah,
It's
we
very
did not
cumbersome.
know that it's
So
going to
if
be cumbersome like
If
this.
it's okay with you guys, I'll put it as an
Oh,
action
yes.
item next time,
that
and
would be
you all can
fabulous.
vote to disband them, and then we can move forward and get stuff
We
done.
need to,
Yeah.
like officially disband it and then,
Yeah, it has to be official, so
Next-
it was brought up in this discussion.
next meeting we'll try.
At the next meeting, it'll have to be an action item.
Excellent. Great.
All right.
Thank you, that's it. So that answers your question about Zoom meeting, I think you can do it.
For the
Certainly takes
subcommittees,
part of a big
it
chunk of
doesn't
it.
take care of
Oh.
us meeting virtually if we wanted to
Oh,
someday,
but
but we can
that-
talk about that. We will get back to you on whether we
But
have a
that-
motion or not.
But
Right.
yeah, we found a way around it, so that worked.
Yeah, subcommittees, at least, we
Yeah.
are doing, you can meet small group. It's hard to really, I can see that, hard to put 3 people together at one time, it's just difficult. But thank you so much, and I think it's a great achievement and
So-
great.
Somehow with this idea
idea.
of a working group, my thought is that the whole committee ought to specify a focus. There's a working group towards some, maybe limited. Now, it can change from time to time.
Yeah, but it's a
whatever that
project.
is, but
Yeah, it will depend on project to project.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. Well, that's great. Thank you so much, everyone. And discussion on recycling, continue. We had talked
I
about
just
it.
wanted to leave that open. I know there was some emails about clarifying some recycling, so I just wanted to put that there if there was a continued
Yeah.
I
discussion.
hope I got everything right on the minutes. For the recycling.
The minutes are already approved.
But it's approved.
So it's right.
Fine. You were just fine, great. Yes. So what do we want? Yeah. So what we want to do, about recycling, I thought maybe you should ask somebody, I was talking to Tony and said, maybe you should ask somebody to come and talk about it, who would clarify all these issues, because I think, let's ask someone to come and talk about it. How about that?
Maybe in a couple of meetings.
Yeah, a couple of meetings,
We'll
yeah.
get some work
And-
done next couple of meetings,
because
and
we're
then
all-
a couple of meetings, we'll get
Yeah.
the public works directors.
There's so many confusion about it, so I think we should have somebody to explain everything and how to do and where to do and, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
I just do Pickens County.
Make sense?
Yep.
Yes. So let's try to do that.
On the note of the recycling, I drew a picture, but I don't know where it went. But you know how on websites you hover over a box and it has the drop down, and then you can hover over one of those and it has the offshoot? I think with Clemson redoing their website, we have a really big opportunity to talk about what web pages we would like to see and how we would like to see them accessible. So the one I had was like sustainable Clemson, and then it was like recycling, and then it like had composting, recycling near me, and like just all these
Different
different
items,
things.
yeah.
So if we wanted to focus on, maybe we can form a new working group or just bring it up at our working groups, what inputs this committee would like to have onto that new website, I think that would be very good.
Okay. We'll put it on your next time, we'll try to work on that. The website is important to how to really organize that. Sounds good. And probably you are the person who should be doing it. All right, thank you, Andrew, for your input. And recycling, I think we'll definitely need somebody to come and explain everything to us. Green Crescent Walk event, that's something which I've been
Today,
wanting
right now, at Kite Hill Brewery, happening currently, or it's probably over, but
to- Yeah, you said that, but there's There's so many things going
And
today.
that was
today.
more informational,
Yeah.
but they do regularly have events
Are those on the website for the Green Crescent Trail?
on their website. And they have, if you're not subscribed, you can subscribe and you'll get a mailing, an email about all the things they
We
do.
might have to do that.
Okay.
I talked to Chad real briefly at that event. He said the section in Central has been postponed because I guess they've got a new designer there who's changed the start-stop point where it was no longer connecting SWU to downtown Central, so they got to backtrack. So that was a setback. But the segment along Berkeley is slated for, I think, next year, and felt like the city of Clemson was going to be very supportive of trying to move those ahead. And I didn't realize that our neighborhood of Camelot has a little spur down to Earl Anderson Park. So if you and I talk about what that might look like, because it wouldn't change any of the roadway stuff. It's probably more about signage and things of that nature.
Yeah, but, I mean, Chris was supposed to fix a date.
Well, that was
We keep
me.
bringing Chris, but
I'm-
we can definitely use that.
Yeah, that was me. I was supposed to reach out to
No, that's fine, that's fine. I mean,
Chad, and I have, he's just working on getting me specific dates for May of when this committee could go out there. So,
all right, we'll wait on that.
what's next month? So we
Then we'll have Mayflowers.
when he gives me those date options, I'll send out a poll for what works best for all of us, and,
Yeah.
and we can hop onto the May walk.
Yeah,
Well, we're having a May walk.
That's what I'm in the process of figuring out with Chad.
all right, so we'll wait for you to come up with the date. And next item is open discussion on new business. Anyone has?
Motion to adjourn?
Yes. That's good, thank you. Motion to approve this meeting, yes.
All in
I know.
favor?
All in favor? This, I call this meeting adjourned. 8 o'clock.
You can see any trees in my yard.